Thank you guys for joining us for the last panel of the day. Promise not to keep you over time. We realize that we are what's holding you between happy hour and having a nice glass of wine or something harder in your hands. Apologies, we did talk to John about trying to get cocktails for everyone, but maybe next year we'll have that in the works. So today we're going to be talking about the intersection of tech and how it meets hospitality and safety. So I'd love to let my panelists introduce themselves. Mark, do you want to start?
So this may or may not have tequila in it. Mark Harms, merchant banker, Global Leisure Partners and Bespoke Capital Partners, chairman, CEO, and founder, and have been at this event a couple of times. So John, thanks for having us back. And I've spent a lot of time in the hospitality industry over the last 40 years, financing, advising, investing, done north of $70 billion of transactions as Global Leisure Partners. And I think I can offer perspective at the intersection of investing, technology, and both the positives and the pitfalls.
Hi, I'm John Prince. I'm co-founder and co-CEO of Hotel Planner. We are based actually right here in West Palm Beach. You can almost see the office from here. 22-year-old company. We are a global hotel booking and event platform. We are projecting about $2 billion of gross bookings next year. High growth, and I would plug the most exciting thing we have going on right now is we created a first of its kind end-to-end booking voice AI. So it can give you hotel advice, go through the room options with the pricing, and then actually book it for you with a credit card. We just launched that last week, and we're very excited about that. So
I think I'm going to book some holiday travel on that just to check it out. Hey everyone, I'm Christine Schindler, co-founder and CEO at PathSpot. And so to talk about everyone's favorite topic before we all go eat together, food safety and hand washing and hygiene, which has been a hot topic on the news lately as well. We created a fully digital platform for being able to handle all the safety-related tasks that happen in restaurants and food packaging facilities and hotels all over the world. So we do hand washing and hygiene with a tool that actually checks your hands to see if you have invisible contamination present behind E. coli, salmonella, neuro, hep A, all that stuff you see on the news that you definitely don't want in your food. Monitor the appropriate temperature, expiration management, digital audits, and all of the related components to FDA rules and restrictions around safety.
Awesome. So we talked about safety, so now we're going to talk about security. So Rodney Williams, I work with Convergent Technologies, and we are a service-based global systems integrator in the electronic security space. So think card readers, cameras, life safety, fire systems, audio-visual, and then a few other areas that we focus on, like building management systems. And what we do is we're a technology agnostic organization. So we have a global network of partners and manufacturers, and we work with our customers and bring them the right sort of solutions and integrate them and make them work for them in a way that makes sense for their business. So that's it on the introductions.
Amazing. And my name is Casey Connolly. I am the head of digital communications at Edelman Smithfield, which is a financial communications boutique firm. So without further ado, hopefully no one is a hypochondriac in this audience or is someone who is a worrywart, but fear not, we are going to talk about a lot of really interesting topics. So just to set the stage, for those of us in the audience that aren't experts on topics that our panelists are here to chat about, the intersection of tech and hospitality and safety has led to several notable trends enhancing guest experiences and operational efficiency. What trends are here to stay? What do we think is phasing out? Care to opine on that, Christine?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in. You know, I think as we're seeing the labor crunch and crisis across the board, and we're also recognizing that technology as a whole, right, is here to stay, as well as the capability set around AI and machine learning. I think one of the biggest components that we're going to see is investment in back of house labor redirection? How do we actually take these components that are taking up a ton of time for team members, whether that's on the administrative side, the booking side, the security side, the safety side, and utilize technology to automate and digitize those different tasks so that team members can focus where it matters most. And I think in the spirit of hospitality, the ability to redirect that labor to things that are so impactful is going to be one of the biggest trends around technology and supporting back of house. Because really, the trends for the last couple of years have been very front of house focused. How do we make it easier for customers to buy, to do different things? And I think the trends around back of house are really approaching and here to stay.
Rodney, but what about from a safety perspective?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things that jump out to me. One of them is if you think big picture, just kind of strategic context of what's going on in the world right now, a couple of things jump out. One is that the global and domestic threat landscape has shifted pretty significantly. So if you think about hospitality, big resorts, casinos, a variety of different things, and what people are doing, they have a lot of different threat considerations that they need to be thinking about because they're trying to create secure guest experiences, right? So one of the big things that we see is people really trying to modernize their technology, and in order for them to be able to take advantage of some of those capabilities that are out there to help with advanced threat detection, make sure that they're paying attention to the things that they need to be paying attention to. Another big thing that we see, and this is across all sectors actually, is the reality that the executive team is expecting more from the security and safety programs, and a lot of those promises come from the new technologies that are out there. It used to be that security and safety was just kind of a cost of doing business, but now what we see is organizations watching not only to secure your facilities and your properties, but the executive team is expecting you to deliver competitive advantage through that security program. How can we leverage AI, computer vision, things like that, to be able to provide, again, great experience, great environment for the guests that are there.
So obviously the intersection of tech and hospitality and safety existed before the pandemic, but as we can all imagine, it was a major inflection point. Things have really skyrocketed since then. What are the biggest changes that you've seen since the pandemic in your individual businesses or even as an investor in this space?
Well, maybe I'll take that as
Yeah.
the investor. There's been a huge shift, especially when you combine inflation and the kind of environment we lived in. So the companies that survived COVID had to get more efficient, especially in a high inflation environment. So that means cut costs, reinvest in technology, try and maintain your operating margins. And so from an investor's perspective, we look for businesses that are doing that. They've done that successfully, and can they continue to drive both top line and bottom line growth by utilizing technology? Frankly, if a business is a technology laggard, we have no interest in it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen since COVID is sales departments have been dramatically cut down. They used to have, hotels that used to have 8 people in sales now have 1 or 2. That never came back. And I would say we're seeing a shift now where hotel brands are pushing more of these kind of lean staff models. Think of the Hyatt Place where you have 1 or 2 people at the ground level and they run everything, versus these very human intense hotel models. So those lean models, I think, are more profitable and more efficient and durable during swings of the economy. So
They're also, I think, from a customer standpoint, becoming much more accepted because people of my generation, I'd rather check in with a person. I've gotten used to checking in without a person, and it's great.
yeah. One thing we're finding is the fraudsters really like that too, because they check in without checking the ID properly.
That's where the security comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, being in the business of hand washing in 2020 was an interesting experience. Everyone was like, "Where's that hand washing girl?" I'm like, "It's me." Hand washing mattered before this as well. But I think, one of the biggest things that I've seen is just the sheer education around safety and hygiene that didn't exist before. I used to talk to executives at restaurant brands, and they would say to me, do you really need to wash your hands for 20 seconds? That doesn't happen anymore, and I think that has percolated through. There's no one, honestly, in our society that couldn't spit back that 20-second number to you anymore. And so what I think that change has been is that both consumers as well as employees alike are looking for safe, secure environments. And it's something that matters to them more than it did before. And how we see that reflected is, people using our system as a recruiting tool. And businesses and employees saying, I want to work here instead of the restaurant down the street because I know about the transmission vectors of illness. My partner is immunocompromised, and I want to make sure I'm in a safe environment. And similarly, you hear these things being tossed around, like cleanliness really is the new ambiance in ways that will not go away. We have a heightened sense of awareness around safety, around sanitation that truly just didn't exist previously. And so I think if there's one silver lining to the immense challenges that bespoked our industry a few years back, it's that maybe that heightened sense of awareness around safety and security in different aspects will allow us to make an impact the next time there's an illness threat.
Absolutely. So, Mark, another question for you. So from the perspective of an investor, how can a company's investment or lack thereof in tech or in a lot of these aspects we've been talking about already change your position? Does it have the ability to do that? Are there specific KPIs or metrics that you're looking for as you're thinking about working with another company?
Well, so we look for businesses that really understand their customers at the end of the day. And so I was involved, and this goes back a few years now, in the leveraged buyout of Caesars Entertainment, $31 billion deal. Caesars and its predecessor Harrah's had developed the preeminent consumer marketing platform and loyalty and rewards platform, and they knew a lot about their customers. They knew how to reward them, but it was big and it was clunky. And they wound up, after the business went private, not reinvesting in their tech stack, so they wound up having this thing that was sort of monstrous, bespoke, and very difficult to manage, and their competitors wound up eating their lunch and substantially eroded their margins because they were able to have a better, more effective tech delivery to their consumers. And so that in a very large sense is one of the pitfalls, if you will, that you really want to try and avoid. I was also involved in a business called Vintage Wine Estates, a wine business, and big direct-to-consumer business. They had no idea who their customers were, and we figured this out, unfortunately, a little bit too late. And same thing, they wind up losing share, even though they had great product, because they didn't know how to get to their customers. They didn't know how to market to them. They didn't know how to reward them and incentivize them. Conversely, we're invested in a health club chain in Taiwan that's now public that has done spectacularly well because they got to know their customers. They took their cleanliness and safety seriously during COVID. They survived COVID, and a lot of health club chains didn't. And then they really invested in the whole digital front end so that you can consume fitness at home, in the gym, wherever you are, outdoors, and you can book everything digitally, you can pay digitally, everything is communicated through your phone, and it's incredibly powerful. And I wish we had more of that kind of product here in the US, actually.
As a follow-up to that, you talked about an experience of, Caesars obviously not doing it well, but is there any positive examples of companies that have done it well that you could share with our audience, of maybe some takeaways they can?
Well, so World Gym, the company I just mentioned, did it really well in the fitness industry. In the hotel industry, the acquirer of Caesars, Eldorado, did it really well. They had a very agile, consumer-friendly, and employee-friendly tech stack, and they figured out that they didn't need to pay 15% of revenues to their customers to reward them. They could get away with 5 to 7%, and that your most loyal customers really don't need a whole lot because they're loyal anyway. And so there was a lot of facts that were discovered by them, and they were able to pretty radically improve Caesars' operating margins once they acquired the business.
Fascinating. So we've heard a lot about, throughout the day, talking about the election, different, whether it's M&A or IPOs, we're not going to be talking about that. But another hot topic that is just popping up everywhere is obviously artificial intelligence and AI. And in this particular industry, it has been such a huge game changer. And so wondering if our panelists can all expand on how AI is going to continue to shape the industry moving forward, what opportunities exist. We've kind of touched on this already with John plugging his new AI concierge system, but would love to hear from a safety perspective. When we were talking outside just a few moments ago, there was, Rodney, you were sharing the example about in Las Vegas, some examples that were happening there with, unfortunately, shooter opportunities that have been really traumatic to businesses in the past, and obviously their loved ones. So not to end on a sour note, but maybe we could talk about how AI is going to positively impact in some of these areas.
Yeah, I'll just quickly start off. So I think that, like any other organization, people are trying to do less with more, and they're trying to kind of capture, the promise of what AI can do for them. And so security is no different, right? And so when you think about, big properties, multi-use, maybe it's a resort, maybe it's a casino, maybe combined retail, restaurant, and that sort of a thing. People are trying to have a really good time, and there are people that are trying to take advantage of those people having a really good time, right? So at the end of the day, trying to identify through facial recognition and other things before people actually get into the environment, they have bad intent, so you're able to screen those people out. You hear a lot in weapons detection in terms of the stuff. Mark mentioned a little bit about a company that they saw that does that, where you're actually capturing the outline of a weapon before it ever enters into the facility. So really, a lot of the security stuff, you can rely more on technology and less on people. You can accelerate your detection. You can respond more quickly, and you can help bad situations from becoming worse, and sometimes you can prevent them altogether. Now, the big challenge to the industry is really, again, modernizing that infrastructure and implementing that technology correctly in order to realize its benefits.
I just couldn't agree more when you say the shortening the time of detection. I think in our industry across the board, and especially when you look at safety and security, so much right now is reactive. Someone got sick, and now we need to go back and look at the supply chain. Someone got hacked, and now we need to go back and look at what happened. I think what AI allows us to do is get in front of that data. And, in our world, we say detection before infection. But I think across the board, it's the same thing, right? How do we actually see, the outline of that risk in a security manner before it hits? How do we know that the doorknob has contamination on it that could make someone sick before every single employee touches it and then goes about preparing their food? And I think the ability to compress and understand and create real impact-driven insights on that in real time is a huge impact of AI in our industry that we see.
And just to add to that, we're involved in a business that uses AI and optical recognition to identify guns specifically, so weapon threats in large environments and in hotel rooms. But there's the intersection of AI and privacy that's really important. So it doesn't do facial recognition because you get into all kinds of privacy rules if you go that route. It basically identifies the threat and communicates with the appropriate enforcement activities without compromising privacy. And I think that that's another pretty important element of the improvement of our overall safety and security within a hospitality context. And I'd like to learn more about your AI product too.
Well, it's not around safety, but I was going to say, we just saw it this week on social media that there's a robo-dog walking around Mar-a-Lago down the road here. You can imagine that at a resort too. I imagine the robo-dog is seeing things a human can't see. So I imagine you put that in schools and resorts in the same fashion.
And smelling things that people can't smell either.
Yeah.
I'm thinking bombs, guys.
But John, why don't you take a second and tell us about just the product that you've launched, how that's impacting, how that has the potential to impact
Yeah, I mean,
the industry, because
it-
I know enough of us have spent time on the phone with a concierge service trying to book a hotel room or dealing with some sort of honors point system, and you're just wanting to pull your hair out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the future we see, we just bought the domain reservations.ai. The future we see is you talk to a voice reservationist that you give it a very complex request, like, I need a 4-star resort within 4 hours of West Palm Beach. I want it family friendly, not a beach resort. I also want a restaurant within walking distance and a Starbucks next door. And it will find it for you. And that's not future state, that is today. It does that now, and it will actually book it for you. So when I put my investor hat on, you know, for the next year, any business that has a large expense of human resources, giant call centers in the case of these major hotel chains, those go away. I mean, 90% of that cost goes away because of AI call centers that are going to be rolling out this year. We already started rolling out, and we are pitching all the major hotel chains on it. So this goes across any industry. Now, what those people are going to end up doing for work, I don't know. That's another conference, but that's what's happening today.
So really what we're talking about here is the combination of tech, AI, and meeting hospitality and safety is just completely reducing the bottom line.
Yeah, yeah.
Improving the bottom
Yes,
line.
Improving EBITDA
excuse
for
me.
sure.
Maybe I did have a cocktail before I came to this panel tonight. Well, as we get ready to wrap up, would love to answer a few questions from the audience, should they exist. But what advice would you guys leave our audience with as companies look to leapfrog the competition and attract investors as they head into 2025?
Top trends, you're saying?
Just any advice you'd have to companies that are looking to leapfrog competition and attract investors going into next year?
I look at today as like when the internet was in 2000, and everyone's like, you don't just need a website, your website needs to do things and do business for you. That's what AI is today. Anyone who doesn't think that is going to be left behind. So embrace AI as fast as you can. There's a lot of AI consulting companies out there, which is very analogous to the web design firms of around 2000, 2001, for those who remember that. Eventually, everyone's going to have AI, and it's going to do anything a human can do. The AI now is already as smart as Einstein. In a year, it's going to be 10 times Einstein. So anything entry level or medium level that a human can do, if the business isn't moving to that, they're going to be left behind.
So one thing I would just mention, in the physical security industry, if you go back to the late 90s and 2000, there was a shift from analog cameras to IP cameras, and it took the industry time to catch up, but when they finally got there, right, so recabling, new endpoint devices, new software, everything else. So it's a major opportunity in the industry. We're in that kind of a situation again right now where the industry built stuff to run a really long time. So we've got a lot of aged infrastructure out there, and tech modernization needs to happen in order for us to take advantage of the promised land and everything that's going to come with all the tools and computer vision and AI and getting things into the cloud. So I would just say firms that are focused in that area would be something to pay attention to.
And I also think that that's platform agnostic, as opposed, so in an overlay, as opposed to just throw out the old kit. Because throwing out the old kit when you have 100,000 hotel rooms is challenging. So, things that can actually incrementally improve your business, and but you've got to your point, you've got to be on the program. There's also, and you might want to comment on this, the difference between AI, artificial intelligence, and augmented intelligence. Because people don't understand the difference.
Yeah, there's just, AI is such a broad term. I mean, it's like, when you mean augmented, you mean like...
I mean, like not AI, but they think it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, our call center now, you mean like, is, people think it's a human, but it's not. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm thinking it's that's true, but then there's a whole nother level to it behind that, where it really is artificial intelligence that is operating close to human level. And so, I mean, I've seen a lot of assisted intelligence technologies that aren't quite AI, but they pretend to be. And as an investor, you got to be careful, right? There's a lot of stuff out there that is on the fringe, and people will tell you how great it is, and they're wonderful salespeople, but guess what? It isn't really.
We've been talking to investors lately, and they don't want to see just you have the LLM integration. They want to see that you have a moat tied to the AI as well. Like the AI is talking to a unique platform behind the hood that's proprietary, and it's trained on data that other people can't get. So anyone can protected data that's private and secure that runs on a local network instance, so that it makes it protected and it can't be copied by competition, and it's hard to replicate. Like our AI is based on 8 million phone calls of real conversations. That's hard to replicate.
Since we're out of time for my piece of advice, I'll make it a personal one. Wash your rings and your wrists tonight, and that's what our AI data tells us.
We are out of time. Thank you guys so much for being such a great audience. If you have questions, buy them a drink at Cucina, and we'll leave it at that.